Hello there. So, I know it's been quite a while since I've strayed away from the literary layers and how to fix it, and it's because I wasn't really quite sure what I wanted to do otherwise. But I've recently gotten some inspiration from a very special place. Thanks to Defunct TV's Jim Henson retrospective, my love for Henson and the Muppets has been reinvigorated. Now, to be clear, I've always been a fan of Henson and the Muppets since I was a kid. Hell, my visit to the Museum of the Moving Images Jim Henson exhibition was months before the retrospective was ever announced, and I had been planning that trip with a friend for well over a year, probably close to two, before we actually ended up getting around to doing it. But learning all about Henson's life through that and the Jim Henson biography gave me a new respect for him, and more so, I think, a respect for his creative process, which was really just to do whatever the hell he wanted to do, doing interesting and experimental things. And I really want to inject that type of creativity into my own projects, and that's what this show was sort of intended to be from the beginning. My Jim Henson hour, if you will, but without the network meddling. A place for me to experiment with different things and formats, reviews, video essays, and whatever else I can think up. That's actually what the show was intended to be from the beginning, but along the way I got kinda lost and it became just another review show. But today we're going to start that format-breaking mold with a tribute to the visionary who inspired it. In my searching of Jim Henson interviews, because nearly everything that came out of his mouth was utter genius, I came across an old program that Henson did for Iowa Public Broadcasting in 1969, teaching his viewers how to make various types of puppets, from all sorts of materials, and like every time I see an interesting concept on YouTube, I wanted to rip it off. I mean, try my hand at doing it. In the video, he shows off various types of puppets, and the one I gravitated to the most was the sock puppet, because not only is it extremely expressive, but while I am technically minded in a way, most of my expertise is centered around modification of pre-made objects. There's a reason that Iota's made from an old air freshener. Sorry about revealing that. I know that was one of the best-kept secrets of this channel. So I picked that, and it was a simple jump from there to getting all the materials. What I loved the most about the video was not only how simple all the puppets were in terms of creation, but also how inexpensive they are to create. A wooden spoon, a styrofoam ball, a sock with ping pong balls for eyes. All this stuff that I have here in front of me cost me less than $10 from both a dollar store and Target, and really only Target because I wanted quality glue. My personal list of puppet crafting items included, naturally, a cheap dollar store sock, though I also bought a set of slightly more expensive socks from Target just in case I needed something sturdier, and we'll come back to those later. A set of ping pong balls, a bag of assorted rubber bands, scissors, a Sharpie, some knives, and a piece of cardboard. Now, this isn't going to be a tutorial in puppet making, since Jim Henson already did that in his special for Iowa Public Broadcasting, and I can't say any of it better than the man himself. I just wanted to talk about my own experience doing it. My intent for this endeavor was to use the puppet in an upcoming video, which would tie into a Muppet property that I won't spoil just yet because I still plan on doing it. But expect to see it, if not by year's end, definitely at some point in January. But I also want to talk about how inspired I am by Henson. Truly, that's the type of creator that I strive to be. The type of creator who can just do every experimental thing that comes to his mind. It's why I tend to have my hand in several pies. I can't decide on just one thing. I love the book reviews, which is my bread and butter. It was the first thing I found out I was good at. But I want to do movie reviews and other types of content just for the sake of trying it out. I think that's what truly causes my burnout, because I just have so many ideas in my head, and it's impossible to do everything, so I just end up paralyzed with indecision. And I think that, had he not passed away nearly 3 decades ago, he would have thrived on YouTube, because I think that it would have allowed him to monetize every new experimental idea he had without the need for networks and TV and movies. And while I am a huge proponent against celebrities using YouTube to bolster their brands while pushing out smaller creators and amateurs from the only space that can provide exposure for them, I would make an exception for Jim Henson. Really what I want to do is I want to walk you through my variations of the puppets and things I've tried and things that failed. So this is my first puppet. Now, originally the pupils on this puppet were a lot smaller, which gave the puppet a more, how do I put this nicely, coked out look. But I rectified that by filling them in slightly more to give them a fuller look. And because this was puppet number 1, I think I set the eyes too far up my hand, so the face kind of looks a little off. Now, puppets 2 to 4 were basically a gamut of failure, as I tried and really utterly failed at trying to more securely attach the cardboard insert that makes up the bulk of the mouth. From my, it's failing because I glued it wrong in the blueprint and kind of glued the mouth shut. In this case, it's glued in sideways, because the glue dried before I could fix it. And then there was one where I didn't leave enough room for my hand, which you can see sort of in this one, which is a big no-no. And something I did more than once was, which one was it? This one, where I basically screwed up the glue, and it basically got residue all over the sock, and I also tried to trace a line on the ping pong balls, and I got, like, graphite dust all over it that I couldn't get off. Now, admittedly, the glue thing is my fault. I should be using craft glue. I'm using Gorilla Glue because it was all I could find on short notice, and I like the brush. It's a lot more accurate than, like, squeezing the glue on. Hashtag not sponsored by Gorilla Glue. Hashtag not an ad. Hashtag could be an ad. Hashtag Gorilla Glue, hit me up, I'll do an ad for you. A major problem that happens when I glue the cardboard down was that the puppet gets like a distinctly lamb choppy sock puppety look that I don't like because it seems way too rigid, and I prefer the flexibility given when my hand makes the bulk of the puppet's head. Now, this one I made specifically as one I recorded myself making. So this one is a lot more accurate in terms of what I wanted. The eyes are screwed up, but that's because I couldn't find the right knife to use. But other than that, this one I am actually proud of. I just think the sock is a little too thin, and you can see I screwed cutting up the eye, so this one wouldn't really work. Although it is probably... apart from that one screw, the 2 screwed up eyes, it's one of the best puppets that I've made so far. So puppet number 1.1 here was an attempt to recreate the first one with a better cardboard insert and better cut eyes. Though that didn't entirely go as planned because I just can't manage to slice the ping pong ball in half correctly. But I do think it came out better than a lot of the interim puppets. But overall, I think it came out good. But this right here, this is my favorite part. The sweater. This was made out of one of those sturdier socks I mentioned before, and I might actually go back to Target and find another set, because I also just want this as a pair of socks to wear on my feet. Now, how I made it was really easy. I just cut the top part of the sock off right under the heel, or over, depending on how you look at it, and stuck it onto my arm before I put the puppet on. The arms are rolled up bits of the rest of that sock, the stuff I didn't use. I cut it in half and made arms with little wrist things, and I stuck them on with adhesive strips, but I think I might learn to sew them down at one point. Once I learn how to sew, that is. I also intend to get something resembling a puppet rod and maybe sewing up some hands to complete the ensemble. And I want to give him a hat or something. He looks like he needs like something else on the head. I don't know what it is, but I feel like he needs hair or a hat or just something to set him off. He has a hat face. But more glaringly, he needs a name. I haven't been able to think of a name that fits or I like, so I am completely open to suggestions. If you have any, throw them out in the comments, and maybe it'll be the name I pick. And at first, I thought I might make him out of several socks, like a patchwork, like they'd all be different bits of socks. So I was going to get some gold yarn to plop on his head, and I was going to call him Colin as a tribute to Colin Baker and the Doctor's Technicolor patchwork nightmare coat. But since he's gray and in an 80s/90s sitcom dad sweater, I'm not really sure what to call him. I am getting slightly better at the lip syncing, but it might take some time before it's good enough to be put to use in a proper review, since I also haven't figured out a voice yet. I'm leaning towards something sorta high-pitched, but I think it just makes me sound like Scooter from The Muppet Show, and heck, I'm terrible at doing voices anyway, so I don't know. Ultimately, the experience was really fun, and it was a nice outlet for the side of me that I don't get to stretch very often. That is, the side that likes crafting and building stuff. And of course it makes perfect sense that I'd be somewhat enraptured by a long-haired, bearded creative visionary with an eclectic sense of style, because, well, duh. I'm not saying I'm a creative visionary of any caliber close to Jim Henson, I'm just saying that it makes sense that I'd look up to him. I hope that you've enjoyed this experiment as much as I have, and be sure to check out the next video, whatever that ends up being. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. And so will I! I don't think that voice fits.